So are we live yet or
Exactly.
what?
Yes, we're live. Hello, everybody. Hey, so we have.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Had a complete and compelling conversation. You all missed it.
Yeah, we've been. You know what? You know what I
Now
love.
for the nonsense.
You know what I love is that we've spent the last like 15 minutes or so mostly talking about superheroes, not Superman, who has a new show, has not come up once.
Superman and Lois, yes.
He's finally going to be a superhero again.
Yeah, he's finally going to be a superhero again.
I wanted to save that until the call started.
Oh,
so I
Nick,
didn't
you smart guy.
Oh, you smooth. Can we call it SNL?
Why, sly dog?
Let's please call it
Superman
SNL.
and Lois. I see what you did there, Dana. Yes.
S and L.
So
make sure to
here's some
enunciate.
great. Here's some great. All right, so you have to understand. Like, I watched the show the other day with my brother and my sister-in-law, and you have to understand. Like, we all liked Men of Steel to some degree when it released. Because we just never seen anything like it before. We never seen a Dragon Ball Z fight scene in real life. And we didn't mind this fresh new take on Superman's character because we were teens and it seemed deep at the time or whatever.
Right.
Wait, I wasn't a teen back then, was I? Whatever.
Yeah,
Anyway,
and I was nowhere near being a teen.
Anyway, the point is...
I applaud the self-reflection now. That's
the point is, we didn't have time for the bad aftertaste to develop.
Right.
But then they made Dawn of Justice, and then they made Justice League, and then we started looking back and noticing this is all kind of toxic. And so watching this show, it got us all really emotional because it's like we had forgotten what it's like to have a Superman who sincerely enjoys helping people out, who isn't like, oh, this is my burden. I must protect these people I'll never truly connect with because they cannot help themselves. I am a sacrificial lamb. Why?
Oh, woe is me.
That's all we need is a superhero with angst.
Yeah, exactly.
The scene in Congress where there's the explosion, instead of going to save everyone, Superman just stood there in the fire with this look on his face like, why does everything bad always happen to me?
Exactly. Well, you know, like I had, because, you know, there's I have been sort of an evangelist of Tyler Hoechlin's Superman since he first appeared on Supergirl a few years ago. And so I'm like thrilled that version of the character has its own show now. And
it's so wholesome.
It's so great. Well, and because like there was a moment in, I think it was his first Supergirl episode a few years ago, where Superman has just come back to Earth. He's been away from Earth for a while, and he comes back. And while he was away, like supervillains attacked the city and caused a lot of damage. And there's a scene of Superman sort of walking through the damaged part of the city and kind of looking around, and he is genuinely upset that he wasn't there. You know, like it absolutely grieves him that he was not there to prevent this or to help people. And I saw that and I thought, that's my Superman. And then in the first episode of Superman and Lois, of course, there's that absolutely beautiful, like his first appearance as Superman when he catches the car and, you know, gives the kid his hat back and he's wearing the Fleischer Brothers costume. And it's just, I mean, it's perfect. It's just perfect. The way he smiles, the way he says, here you go, friend, when he hands him his hat, like Jesus Christ. And he sells it. He makes it sound like it doesn't sound corny or, you know.
No.
He sounds like he's channeling Christopher Reeves.
It sounds.
People have said about it being corny, but it's not.
It's not.
It's not.
It's genuine.
It's earnest. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's genuine.
It's the importance
I
of
want
being earnest.
want to really talk about this show here because because when I watched that first episode this week, I remembered you, Steve, like you specifically talking about those things when you talked about what a Superman story should be.
Yeah.
And then I was watching the show and I'm like, were these guys listening to you when they filmed this? because it's spot on. It's that story. I just wanted to. I didn't know what your reaction would be because you didn't talk about it before we started here, and I really wanted to know your reaction. I thought, are those guys done with the Arrowverse? Don't they want to hear more about it? Because not all of it was great, but I still love it because it's just personal. But this show, it's like it's on another level, and this is not the show about. This is not your show about Superman, like the movie is about Superman Begin and what we think about it.
Yeah.
It's there's that phrase which one person says in the episode, which probably sums it up best. you dated and you fell in love with Clark Kent, but you have married Superman.
Yeah.
That pretty much sums it up. It's what it is about.
Yeah.
I wonder how much this is a combination of getting back to Reeves, as I said before, and also a reaction to Zack Snyder's Superman.
Yeah, it feels like a giant nope to Man of Steel and everything.
Yeah.
It feels like somebody read the source material.
After so many years of just seeing Snyder and numerous Hollywood types saying like, oh, we can't do Superman like that. There's no place for him in this modern cynical world. We just don't know how to write Superman. I'm like, this is all you had to do the whole time.
Well,
yeah, and that's the point I made.
Job of writing Superman.
Yeah, that's the point I was trying to make in the last time we discussed this. Why do you have to rewrite him? I mean, yes, you've got a cynical world. That doesn't mean that Superman has to be cynical. He can react to that cynicism and be in its face.
And that's what's so great about the show is that it still gets real. While Superman himself is like really optimistic, it still addresses things like, oh yeah, this is still a world where meth heads burn down their own house. Yeah, they actually mention stuff like that. Yeah, but without the show getting dark and grim. Yeah, yeah, it's just it's the best way to have like, oh, a character like Superman, but in our real world. Yeah, well, and let's not forget, I mean, back in the 70s, the modern world was cynical as well, and they did the Christopher Reeve, Richard Donner Superman, which was also a very earnest take on the character, and it was great, and it made all the money in the world. So this has happened before where people have said, oh, you can't do like wholesome Superman, people don't want that, and then they do it, and they do it well, and it turns out that yes, actually, if it's good, that's exactly what people want.
I mean, Captain America's certainly been popular, and he's a similar type of mindset. Very positive, very optimistic. I mean, my
problem with Captain America, and especially as regards the whole Civil War thing, he really borders on being too much of a goody two shoes. And a lot of the conflict between him and Stark, I think, comes down to Stark trying to think a little bit more pragmatically, especially since he's had his own egotism rubbed in his nose. Yeah. And that's why he goes the direction he does as it comes to the Sokovia Accords. And Rogers, meanwhile, thinks, no, we can't have any supervision. I think the flaw in his thinking, though, is, they do need supervision, but they need qualified supervision. And the likes of that schmuck from the council, I'm sorry, he doesn't qualify. He doesn't come within a light year of qualifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if only Peggy Carter was still alive and working, imagine that. Nobody would be against that supervision.
I also love the family. I love the boys.
Yeah, the boys are great so far.
It's funny because the early stretch of the episode, it gave me so many red flags. I thought, uh-oh, is Jordan going to turn into a supervillain? Yeah. Is this like a mental health bad guy kind of thing? And then they didn't go that route. And like by the end of it,
well, hopefully they won't. Until he gets hold of that red kryptonite.
But I love that.
I think it's gonna be the other one.
But I love that they showed that he is still a good kid. Yeah, and he really tries. And I love how the brothers actually start to get along by the end of it. How they like make it too belligerent, I guess.
But just so I'm clear, that whole thread where Superman left Earth for a while because Lois was having a baby, that whole thread isn't in this show, because that would have been. These kids are teenagers. Yeah,
I think the deal is that things were sort of reset after the crisis, so that's why the kids are older.
Plus, it's sort of the old continuity thing where you don't want to be hamstrung by things that happened, before you built your current universe or the current. Yeah. You don't want to have like a throwaway line from something on a different show 5 years earlier. Keep you doing something very fundamental with the show going forward.
Right. Yeah.
You need to make sure that you're managing your audience's expectations, that they know that this version of this character, and here are some of the things that shaped him. I thought the intro was done really well. That montage with the voiceover was really, you know, good at establishing what the world is and who this Superman is, and what we can expect what we should expect going forward.
Yeah, it's a good entry point because it basically it tells you, like, if you've seen this Superman on the other shows, if you've seen him on Supergirl and stuff, you know, it's still basically the same guy, but at the same time, you don't have to have watched any of that to know what's going on and to get into this show. Like, this is its own thing.
And
you know?
I think one of the most important
is doing
things,
something very similar to, you know, is having to find that balance as well, because they had all those different, you know, they had the cinematic universe from the theaters that are now gone to Disney Plus, but you had all those Netflix shows and the shows that are on broadcast TV and whatnot, which are essentially non-canon, I believe, at this point.
Yeah.
I think probably the most important thing that the show gets right is that he can't fix everything with the powers. He can't punch his family problems away, or, you know, just other little things. He has to deal with it like a normal person. One of the first cues of this is during the flashback, where, you know, his dad just keels over from a heart attack. He doesn't have to be swallowed up in a tornado.
No.
Not everything in Superman has to be big. And it's like, poor kid Clark, he can't do anything about it. It's just a normal thing that happens to normal people.
Yeah.
And that makes Superman more relatable.
It's you know, it's the same beat from Superman the movie, where the same thing happened to Clark's dad, you know, and in that movie, in the movie as in the show, or as it's strongly implied in the show during that montage, that was what set him on his path. Was, you know, his father dies of natural causes, of something that he couldn't have prevented, and that's what sort of sets him down the path to becoming a hero, to saying, like, well, I'm going to use my abilities to help where I can. I know that there are things I can't fix, but there are also things that I can fix, and I need to.
But as for other things that the powers can't fix,
hang on, let Nick, wait a minute, let Nick talk.
It's just about the powers not being able to fix everything. Is how, like, you know, these shady companies are basically buying up all the farms, trying to drive the people out of town. These aren't things that Superman can solve. They're things that Clark Kent has to solve.
Right.
And I love that.
Lois.
And hopefully Lois.
Yeah, about
hopefully
the show,
Lois.
actually.
Yes.
What I wanted.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Again, I never find a good moment.
No, go for it.
About the show. Okay. So first, the thing, you talked about how Superman basically can't, like, resurrect people and prevent death from natural causes, and we know the common trope is that in comics and in anything that has to do with comics and superheroes, anybody who can eventually becomes a villain. Like that's a common trope. If you are capable of preventing natural causes of death or something like that, or make people immortals, you don't turn out to be a good guy generally. But then again, still about the show. First of all, I was really surprised about how anti-capitalist it was, like, straight from the get-go. Your brand of anti-capitalist, like, maybe not some random geek's brand of anti-capitalist, but yours for sure. It's like, those big corporations are screwing us up. Like, there and here they're screwing us up. And then there's this guy who's like this husband of this friend of Superman's. I haven't watched Smallville. I have no idea who those people are, but still, we get this picture of a guy who's like more pro big corporation and pro buyout.
Yeah.
He's like, this guy is Republican. Like, probably not wing nut Republican, but Republican for sure. And we're like, we are getting this, and he's not the most pleasant of guys, and I believe the show will talk more about it. And then, actually, I don't know, I'm not the person to talk about it, but the show, this first episode at least, felt like good mental health representation. Again, I don't face those problems myself. I have friends who do, and this feels like the correct way to do it. But I really wanted to talk and ask people who do face those things, and is it a good representation? Is it how it's done?
You mean like of the like Jordan's
the
mental health issues?
Like, especially in the beginning of the episode when we see how the show tackles it, how the show talks about it, and how the parents are afraid, and how what's going on there.
Yeah,
I think it was just because he still has pretty normal, like perfectly understandable reactions to things. And I like how he's very keen. He puts things together. The point is, he's not a caricature. His mental health issues are
and they
but it's
call
not
out
everything
the
about
syndrome.
Right.
They name it. It's a real thing.
It reminds me, Steve, of your review of the Joker, where it's important to have stories where it's like, hey, we should be kind to people, you know, with like disabilities, just because it's the right thing to do, and not or else. And I was worried early on in the opening minutes that this would be an or else kind of story, and thankfully it doesn't look like that so far.
No, I did too. I when they were going through the opening, you know, the opening narration, and they got to and Jordan has mental health issues, and I was like, you know, but it seems like they're gonna handle it pretty well, at least judging only by the first episode. It seems like, you know, they're gonna do it the right way. But that first scene of where there's like the shot of him like kind of having like a freak out, and I'm like, oh shit, no, please don't do this. But you know, it seems like they're gonna do okay with it.
And like
television has a very bad track record with situations like this, so you have a right to be nervous.
Yeah.
Well, it also has the opportunity, you know, it's the natural beat to take that and use it to twist the guy into a into the Joker, into the Riddler, whatever have you. But if he is struggling with it, he is self-aware of his situation, and he is consciously fighting it. And again, I haven't seen the episode, so I don't know.
And getting help and getting treatment.
That is my sense of this, that he is engaged with his own condition, and to the degree he can be in control of it, he is.
Yeah. And that's something that they foreshadow his powers early on, because he's the one that they address in Reds and Blues. You know, visually they foreshadow it. And then also, but one of the things that was, Steve, you mentioned that he's the one who puts things together. Up to that point, he's very much Lois's child. And so he seems to take after her more. And it was really interesting, you know, we were over here at our house, we were talking about, you know, the two brothers and who they seemed to connect with more, and you know, how the powers would develop as the show went on. And you know, that Clark seems to be latching on more to Jonathan and the powers, but at the same time he talks about Jordan using the language of his own experience, like being an alien and feeling othered and feeling like you don't belong. So there's actually more of the connection there, goes deeper than Clark seems to actually realize. He feels shut out, but at the same time, even as he's describing the way that Jordan is shutting him out, he's using the language of his own experience.
Yeah.
I also just love that he doesn't hate his brother.
Me too.
Like what sets him off? What triggers him to use his powers? Like during the party scene, it was watching these guys kick the shit out of his brother. He wanted to protect his brother, so he used his heat vision. I don't know.
Yeah.
I love that so much, because I can think, like, if this were a Zack Snyder kind of story, he would have lashed out at Jonathan at some point.
I love that it's not one or the other, though. Like, they bicker. And like, you know, they seem very sibling-esque. You know, they pick on each other, but it's at the same time you can infer that undercurrent of a strong bond between them, even though they don't really connect the way that maybe they used to. And I really liked that. I thought that
their bond only becomes stronger over their shared distrust of their father.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, and also, I mean,
they still share an exploration scene. They go into that like thing,
the barn.
the bottom, like the barn. Yeah. They go there. They go there with flashlights. That's straight up like Stranger Things stuff. It's
totally.
It's a lovely scene.
Do barns generally have basements like that?
I guess in Kansas they do.
Oh, look, I was watching the Hardy Boys.
We know what they're going to find there, but the scene is still tense.
Yeah. I never thought of that. But yeah, why does the barn have a basement?
Because
convenience.
Did Clark dig that because he needed a place to hide the ship? Was he like, we got to put this somewhere?
It has a storm shelter.
Yeah.
You'd have a storm shelter.
It can also be a two-tier barn where the thing is built on a rise, because I've seen barns where you have a ramp going up to the primary level of the barn, but there is a subsection to it. I mean, there's barns and then again there's barns too. So
maybe it's a root cellar.
There is one potentially kind of icky part of this. And I'm not talking about like Jordan accidentally kissing the girl. I'm glad that he immediately like repented for that and isn't some incel type. I'm talking about, this is a bit of a spoiler for the very end, Luthor.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
so Jeff Bezos?
Did anybody
Jeff
else
Bezos.
Did anybody else for him get Iron Man vibes?
Yeah,
A little bit.
Costume design.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Looked a little more like Doom guy.
Yeah.
The helmet. Yeah, the helmet looked like the Doom guy. Yeah.
But then after watching this episode, my thought was like, is this guy necessary in this story?
Well, hopefully the way I don't know what direction they're going. I don't know what's going to happen, but it seems like they're sort of setting up that guy as Superman's nemesis, and maybe Morgan Edge will be kind of Lois's nemesis. Like Lois will be pushing like the journalism angle and trying to sort of, figure out what Morgan Edge is doing to Smallville.
In the Morgan Edge story, in the corporate story, in this whole thing, and then it just felt that the fight that Superman had this episode, it was like to show why he's not here. It's how in the background it was. It was some amazing CGI. It looked amazing, but we still understood that it was in the background, and the foreground was those guys fighting, and we really thought more about those because we know nothing bad's happening to Superman.
Right.
Those guys.
Not in the first episode. I had serious issues with that because when General Lane comes to the farm after the funeral, he's got nothing for Superman to do. There's information, they need to find out what's going on. They need to find out what's going on with these breaches at the nuclear plants. He needs an investigator. Why is he talking to Clark instead of Lois?
Right. You have like the world's greatest investigative reporter right there.
Like, she's right there.
Whenever someone says anything about nuclear power plants, I'm like, oh god, they're going to get something wrong, and it's going to bother me.
Oh, tell us. What
can you avert a nuclear meltdown by dropping a big piece of ice on it?
Not especially.
Not really.
Oh, rats.
Yeah, Steve, you have seen Chernobyl, right?
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, large amounts of water suddenly falling on it tends to do bad things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What were you saying?
I mean, if you think about it, this guy actually has frost breath, and we've seen him breathing this unreasonable amount of water in like an instant, from basically like outside temperature to ice, right?
Yeah.
And then carrying this huge chunk of ice, but that's not the point. The point is if he can freeze this amount of water this quickly, then his frost breath is probably by itself good enough to just freeze any kind of thing.
That's right.
Because water has some unreasonable energy out.
Powerful enough. They actually did address that. There was voiceover that he was able to hear them saying that it's not going to be enough. Either that or that it was going to do it too quickly. And so that's why he needed the ice, so it would do it at a more reasonable pace.
Lee, you were going to say something, or you were trying to say something?
No. If you drop ice on it, it's going to cause thermal shock, and it's going to cause the whole the containment to fracture.
Yeah, the term you're looking for is flash steaming.
Yeah,
and that happens because you're dealing with temperatures that are way up there in the the high thousands of degrees Fahrenheit, and when water, even ice hits that, there's the transition is almost instantaneous.
Yeah, I was thinking that's why
he violent
slowly though. That's why and then there was a piece that broke off. I'm like, now it's gonna blow up, but it didn't because
let's be honest. If something's too hot, generally dropping an iceberg on it is not the recommended strategy.
No. Although I did he didn't just drop the iceberg; he held it up. He let it drip. Yeah, and let it drip. Yeah. And even though it's like totally like unscientific, and it wouldn't work in real life, and that like that whole scene,
a good comic book solution.
That whole scene was amazing. I was almost in tears watching that scene because it's like Superman being Superman. I'm such a sucker for that. Yes,
it felt like the kind of thing you would see him do in the cartoons.
Yeah,
the Bruce Timm
in real life.
Steve, are you suggesting that the show is unscientific? The man holding up flying and holding up an iceberg.
I'm saying it might be slightly unrealistic.
That it wouldn't work in real life.
Exactly.
Only slightly. Alien aspect. That's just fine.
Have you ever seen someone lift a giant iceberg over a melting down nuclear reactor? I don't think so.
I've seen it not work.
Hey, it's raining
again. Interestingly, a lot of reactors here stateside have an emergency water injection system that will literally flood the whole compartment and keep the reactor underwater in case of things like this.
Yeah, well, the whole point of a nuclear reactor is you have to keep it immersed, because the second any part of it is exposed, you're in deep shit. Remind yourself of the China syndrome and what was going on with that.
Yeah.
Lauren, I was a nuclear reactor operator.
Oh, neat.
Boom!
Okay, so
Hey,
here's
plot point.
but here's what kind of weirds me out. Okay, so look, Luthor, he's one of Superman's more cerebral villains.
Mhm.
The whole point of Luthor is that Superman can't beat him by punching him. And that's
Right.
why I've always thought it was kind of lame, like whenever in the comics he dons this like green
He puts on the suit.
powered
Yeah.
armor,
The
whatever,
power suit,
and
yeah.
literally fights
The whole
Superman.
pre-crisis
He's
thing
not
before
that
he became
kind of
the
villain.
businessman.
Yeah.
But so I'm gonna see. I'm gonna have to see how they do this because I am intrigued by the idea that Luthor is a new villain. That Superman has been Supermaning this entire time for like 20 years and never encountered Luthor apparently.
Yeah.
And Luthor basically been preparing all the time.
Who
That is neat.
Luthor in this world?
Yeah.
Who is he?
He seems like, I mean, I'm just gonna throw out a guess and say that this is based on some of the lines that they gave him. I feel like I mean maybe they'll double cross us and it turns out to be something different. But it seems like he's Lex from another universe. He's like a refugee from the Crisis, and his universe was destroyed in the Crisis, and he escaped somehow and wound up in this universe. I feel like that's where they're going. That's why Superman doesn't seem to recognize him, but he knows a lot about Superman because he knows his Superman from his world. You know, I feel like that's where they're going with that.
When he said his world was destroyed, I thought he meant like metaphorically, like LexCorp completely fell through or something because of
his stock price just went right in the toilet. My whole world's been destroyed.
But I mean,
I actually kind of thought this was General Zod at first. I'll explain why later, but I don't want to like interrupt it right now. But if you let me say, I can tell you why. Because it ties really good into the argument I wanted to have. I wanted to say it about Man of Steel actually from the beginning of the conversation. Because when I watched the Man of Steel movie the first time, I was fascinated by how this movie is actually similar to, guess what, Star Trek 2009. This is the same movie. Like, literally, if you look at the visuals, if you look at the plot points, if you look at the ideas, and if you look at a lot of different things, Man of Steel is Star Trek 2009 with Krypton in it instead of Vulcan. It's literally that same thing. And actually, that's why I kind of liked Man of Steel, because I thought it was not a very good, but at least a compelling sci-fi story. If it wasn't Superman, then that wouldn't be a bad sci-fi story. Zod from Man of Steel would make a nice, middle of the line, but still a nice Star Trek villain. Like he makes sense. He wants to. His planet died, and so he wants to go somewhere and recreate his planet from what he has. That's a Star Trek villain plot, and that's why I kind of thought when I heard like in this episode the phrases that this guy said, I thought, yeah, this is probably General Zod. His world was destroyed, and he knows Superman, like metaphorically knows, but Superman doesn't know him. That's what General Zod in Man of Steel said, and that's what Nero said.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Spock, I know you. I encountered you. I know who you are. You still don't know me, but oh, you will. And I'll basically do to your planet what you like his things you've done to mine. So that's where it ties up. And if you rewatch those movies back to back, you'll be fascinated by how many similar visual decisions even they have. Zod's ship looks like the Mirana. Zod's phrases sound like Nero's phrases. And Krypton looks and feels like Vulcan. And then it gets blown up in a pretty similar fashion.
I'm just glad they nixed the Kirk snaps Nero's neck ending, because that just wouldn't have worked.
I just hope this show doesn't delve too much into the expanded like multiverse stuff, because I wanted to stay relatively grounded and down to earth with like Superman and his family. That's why I'm hoping that this version of Lex attacks him in more psychological ways, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna attack Superman's family. I'm gonna run him out of town because I'm Lex Luthor, and that's the kind of stuff I do. Like normally Lex would do what Edge is doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, we're saving the multiverse for Doctor Strange, as I understand
Good
it.
Lord, these comic book stories are getting too big.
To keep it down to earth, and then they'll have the same problem the comics do with the tone shift, where the writer wants to do one thing, but then there's a crossover event, and they have a very jarring shift for the crossover episodes, and then hop back, and they don't fit in real well because they're sort of required to participate in this larger picture that doesn't really fit in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the CW crossovers have been pretty good about that, where each show usually just gives away one episode to the crossover, you know? So, I mean, and because there are so many shows on the air now, you can have like a 5 or 6 part crossover, but it's just one episode from each show, so that, you know, when it's over, the show can kind of just get back to what it was doing before and just be like, well, anyway, you know,
that happened.
back to what we were saying a month ago. So, you know,
that would be a good title for the episode after the crossover event, as I was saying.
So anyway,
Steve, I had a question. Had you watched Superman and Lois before Readaway? Because I felt like you had.
Yes.
And then, because after the book talks, we talked about Superman, and you mentioned in the cartoons, you know, that it's not always exciting to have them, you know, just the big punch out at the end. But you talked about having him punching through walls. And so I didn't watch Superman and Lois until this morning, and then that scene came in and I'm like, hey, look, he just punched through
he does punch through a wall. Yeah. Well, but that's classic George Reeves. I mean, George Reeves Superman, that was his big action move, was bursting through the wall.
I didn't know if that was like, if you were like trying to like save that spoiler for me.
Hey, isn't it nice that they managed to not destroy that entire city? They just flew between some of the buildings, and then Superman crashed into a door.
Yeah.
That was basically it.
He did talk about his parents teaching him to control his powers.
Yeah,
so.
not his parents telling him to say screw the rest of the world.
Yeah, he didn't punch anyone directly into an oil tanker at the train yard.
Yeah,
them flying by at the speed of sound didn't even shatter any windows. And
I know,
between flying out windows and punching through walls. Did George Reeves Superman ever use a door?
Yes, he did. He absolutely did. Every time he went into the storage closet to change.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I wanted.
I'm imagining a Superman being like the Kool-Aid Man. Just
oh yeah!
Hey, Superman! I want to see a parody of the George Reeves Superman where he forgets and he breaks through a wall as Clark, and then he has to fumble for an explanation as to, you know, like,
wow, these are really shoddy walls. I should make a story about this.
Mr. White needs to call that building inspector. This wall is some shoddy craftsmanship there, Lois. And Clark, and then Lois would just roll her eyes and go, "Oh, Clark," and then go back to whatever she was doing.
And that's where the laugh track comes in. Oh, Clark.
Wow. These glasses make look like Clark Kent.
Jimmy could say like, "Gosh, Mr. Kent, in a hurry" or something. You know, they play it off as a joke, and he's like, "Oh, I fooled him again." You know, and he could do like the George Reeves, like the take to the camera. You know, because George Reeves did that before Christopher Reeve did it. Like he would, you know, there would be like the ending of a Superman episode where Lois would say something like, you know, good thing Superman was there," and Clark would do like, you know, like look at the camera, like, yeah, but
Isaiah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, would you guys like care to have like a Q superhero kind of thing, like a Star Trek Q being a superhero, or like someone from the Q continuum being a superhero?
I think that would be really interesting. They kind of toyed with that a little bit in Watchmen with Dr. Manhattan. I mean, obviously that was just for that one story, but you know, the idea of like a hero being just absurdly powerful. You know?
What I was thinking about, like, so like let's say like I was a Q, and like hypothetical like situation, I got pulled over by a cop, and it started to get like really tense, and I just like turned the cop car into like a horse or something.
I think it just shows how traumatized I am by recent events that I can't hear the letter Q anymore in any context without thinking about QAnon.
I know. John Delancey needs to make a video.
Oh, absolutely.
John Delancey needs to make a video.
Absolutely.
I'd be like, it's been brought to my attention that the letter Q has been misappropriated. So let me set a few things straight.
John Delancey's the James Bond Q.
I said I do love characters like Q or like Vampire Hunter.
He's a wizard.
Those characters that'll just grab an entire letter of the alphabet, which there are only so many, and say, "Yeah, that's mine.
This is mine now."
You have to believe that John Delancey would be up for it. I mean, he just came back not long ago for Lower Decks.
For Lower Decks, yeah.
John DeLance is on Cameo for I think it's $100 or something. You can get him to do whatever as a video.
Oh man,
yeah.
I saw that David Hasselhoff is doing that too, and it's obviously that he's just recording them like on his couch. You know what I mean? And he's just like, "Hey, happy birthday, Francine from David Hasselhoff. One person can make a difference. Bye."
I guess I've always just kind of loved I know it's really goofy for Star Trek's first season of TNG, but those aliens who have the ability to send the Enterprise 1,000 light years away at the blink of an eye. I just thought it's bonkers and dumb if you think about it, but it's kind of
it's high fantasy in space.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's just one of those. It happens less often as they get into the show, but you're right. It's just they run into some random alien who can just fling the ship into uncharted territory.
The number of times they ended up at the edge of the universe or the edge of the galaxy, wherever in that first season was little.
And then there's Voyager,
who got flung and had to stay there for some reason.
Yeah, I mean that 70,000 light years. I mean that's not a walk in the park.
How pissed do you think Janeway was when she realized that they were going to be stuck there? She's like, "Man, this happened to Picard in season 1. He was back by the end of the episode. Why are we stuck here for 7 years? This is
what
bullshit."
You said in the end of the first episode, what you said in the end of the first episode. We will find wormholes. We will find different ways. We will find every single shortcut there is to find, and we will do it faster.
Yeah.
So she basically knows that this thing
destroyed the way back.
We're gonna find an omnipotent being to bring us back. The alpha and beta quadrant is messy with them. There's bound to be at least a couple out here in the Delta Quadrant.
And then knows it, and she calls it out loud.
She's just sat in her corner, just like, "I believe in the traveler. I believe in the traveler."
And I believe in fairies. Clap your hands.
I just believe in human decency. Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
Sorry.
Yeah, Eric.
So Janeway makes a conscious decision to strand them in the Delta Quadrant, and for the premise of the whole show, why does this one person get to screw us all over like this?
Yeah, and she makes that.
Ocampo, who she turned around and left behind.
I was just going to say that's exactly the point I was going to make. She makes the decision to stay behind to look after the Ocampo, who they immediately abandon. It's like, what could you not? And it's like, obviously they had the premise of the show was that the ship is lost in the Delta Quadrant. So okay, would it have killed them to come up with a better excuse? I mean, wasn't anybody in the writer's room during the breaking of that show going, okay, wait a minute, so her justification is that they're going to protect the Ocampo, but then we never see the Ocampo again?
It seems like it would have been a lot easier to just fling them to the Delta Quadrant and then just not have a way to get back.
Yeah, just don't give them a way back. Exactly.
Yeah, to a certain degree, though.
Not following continuity.
To a certain degree, they are following continuity.
We discussed the flaws in Voyager.
Yeah, they are following continuity in that the Kazon had get redirected from going after the Ocampo to going after Voyager, and in that regard, the Ocampo is, to a certain degree, they're in the clear.
That's a good point.
That's
a good point.
It was pretty good that Voyager spent 3 years going in a straight line away, and they kept running into the same people.
Well, the question is, how big are the Kazon's territories there? I mean, we really never get a map of the damn place.
Well, the Kazon underwent Republican redistricting.
Yes. I will say,
they were gerrymandering, were they?
Wow, it's a lot bigger than I expected. I think the Ocampo are just fucked, right?
I will say, if you are, what Dana said about, am I complaining that it didn't follow continuity? If all you are looking for is a show where continuity doesn't really matter, Voyager is pretty much your show, because with the exception of a handful of episodes, nothing that happens in any individual episode means shit going forward in the show. So if you are like me and you are not and you don't like to get tangled up in continuity,
likes to box. Yeah, that's
it's like
It's not your favorite show.
Never would have figured that one out.
But yeah, it's because like the TNG version of that is like they about in like season 3 or 4 they randomly made Picard like an archaeology nerd, right? And it was like, oh, okay. But at least that stuck. Like they kept that as a part of his character. They made Chakotay randomly a boxer, and then it was like, and anyway, that episode's over. We don't have to talk about that again.
Late in the show's run.
Okay, here's the kind of
about how Paris had so many one-off hobbies for various episodes.
Oh yes, God.
When did they introduce Riker's trombone?
Pretty early in the first season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's his face? Paris was a 20th century nerd pretty much through the whole series.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
True. Yeah.
Paris is actually I think I've said before in videos, Paris is probably my favorite character on the show. Because I mean, and he is ridiculously like he's in my video about him I made a few years ago. He's like, if you take what they present for him, he's the most absurdly overqualified, super competent Starfleet officer ever, because he can do anything.
If he was a woman, a certain segment of the fan base would be calling him a Mary Sue.
Exactly. Because he's good at everything. He always wins. Even when he loses, he wins. You know what I mean? Like there's that episode where the Kazon and Seska like take over Voyager and strand the crew, and Tom like basically single-handedly rescues the ship. And it's like, Jesus, okay.
Voyager was very easy to capture though. There must have been like some sort of you've captured Starship Voyager tutorial program that popped up for them, because nobody ever had any trouble taking over that ship.
My favorite piece of continuity in all of Star Trek, just from like episode to episode, is one of the earlier episodes of DS9. There's the whole root beer scene between Quark and
one of my favorite moments.
Garrick, yes. And then a few years later, once the Dominion's taken over the station, Quark he's like, oh, I want the Federation back. I want to sell root beer again. Great callback.
Yeah, and my line regarding the whole root beer thing is simple. You think the root beer's bad? Put a scoop of vanilla ice cream in there and then tell me what you got.
I know, cream soda. Or cream soda, black cherry soda.
That too. Oh, yeah. Listen, guys, I've got to scoot pretty shortly here.
Sure.
And I just wanted to show you a little something before I left.
Yes.
Being this. I don't know if you can read that.
Oh.
That is my form.
Vaccine
to get
form.
myself a jab in the arm.
Awesome.
With the Moderna vaccine.
Congratulations.
And that's happening in roughly an hour.
Oh, great.
And I'm going to be taking off shortly.
Good for you, man.
Before he goes,
is that your first or second dose?
Yeah.
This is number one. This is number one. And believe me, I've been busting my butt 3 ways from Sunday trying to get something. What I hooked up with, and when it comes to your time, whenever you can get into the schedule, I ended up contacting. We have a thing here in Cleveland, the Department of Health, and you can call 211 in order to get it. I don't know if you have anything parallel in your individual states, but the Department of Health kicked ass and took tickets. And my thanks to them, because they're the ones who got me hooked up. It's a direct, I signed up with CVS, Walgreens, Discount Drug Mart, blah, 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 give me lots of nice notices, but, no, brass ring. And these guys got me hooked up. So, that's my advice to you when it comes time for you guys to get your shots. And that's just a point on the curve.
I'm on the list, but no. Am I the only one in the stream that's gotten both of them yet?
Probably, because I'm essential worker.
I'm probably the only one that works in healthcare here.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and my wife is, and there goes my alarm to remind me, because my wife is a social worker. So, she was well ahead of me in the line as it comes to that. But I'm going to get going on this. Guys, have a terrific rest of your meeting. We will see you when we see you.
All right.
Later.
Take care, my friend.
Bye. See you.
Later.
Yeah, I'm the Q, but because I'm healthy, I'm not living with anyone that's at risk or anything like that, and I am an essential worker, but I thankfully don't work in the public with the things. I just work in manufacturing, so it's just I'm in the list, but I'm ahead of most people, but others are ahead of me. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the Pennsylvania. They're doing the first one right now, so I'm not going to be getting it for a while. Wife is. But
Yeah.
How is Boeing over there like dealing with that whole engine thing with that airliner that
the 777?
that lost an engine?
I have no idea. I haven't heard any scuttlebutt.
And there are still no news. I on multiple occasions expressed how I love this particular airplane, but not this one, not with this specific engine, the larger one with the larger engine anyway. But I'm worried because Boeing had problems for the last several years.
Well, there was actually a guy that worked at Boeing, and this was recorded. There's a whistleblower, someone that works for the FAA or something like that, knows all the problems of the production line, the MAX 737, and said, when I worked at the Pentagon for working at defense industries, if there was this many problems with a production line, stuff like that, we would ground the thing. To which this executive said to that person, "Yeah, but the Pentagon is not a multi-million-dollar business to try and make money," and so
Boeing screwed up.
Yeah, exactly. So capitalism.
Then they screwed up in the same way with their Starliners. Like they had this basically. There were those people in SpaceX, and SpaceX launched their rocket on time, and Boeing basically failed. They had a launch, it didn't dock to the station. They need a second launch to basically verify that their spacecraft is okay. And it was later revealed that their spacecraft didn't fail completely miserably, only because there was this tiny thing that didn't go wrong, and it could, and it very well should have. And only because it didn't go wrong, it returned to the Earth basically safely. So yeah, those guys screwed up. But the engine thing is actually weird because, engines are not produced by Boeing. Like aircraft engines are not produced by the same corporations as aircraft.
Yeah, they're usually Rolls-Royce, I think.
Pratt Whitney.
Yeah. And I believe there were no specific problems with Rolls-Royce aircraft engines. I mean, it's probably a one-off occasion. Engines explode sometimes. It happens. It's probably it's not a new engine. It's not a new aircraft type. Nothing like that really systematically happened, like with 737 MAX, which was 2 fatal crashes in the span of a couple of years. Probably a one-off occasion. Probably. So yeah, there's that.
Those Rolls-Royce engines are the Rolls-Royce of airplane engines.
Speaking of aerospace disasters on TV, have you guys seen For All Mankind?
No, I haven't yet. I don't have Apple Plus, but I heard it's really good.
The first couple episodes. I want to watch it.
I mean, has anyone gotten to the season 2? Because for everyone who has, I'll just, and for everyone who is watching this stream, for everyone who has seen, I haven't seen episode 2 of season 2, I have seen episode 1 of season 2, and for everyone who is watching, not a spoiler, but I never thought I would be crying, literally my tears out, when I hear the Three Little Birds song by Bob Marley. I never thought this would happen, and it did happen. The show made me cry because this song was there. It's one of the most amazing moments of any space show I've ever seen. It's on par there with the Waterloo scene from The Martian, and I love that scene. It's where he strips the lander, and this song by ABBA plays. I love it absolutely. This one challenged it for me, and so when you see it, you know what I'm talking about because it was so damn emotional. We need those moments in our space shows, those music moments.
It's got Ronald D. Moore as the producer, and I think Naren Shankar is in it, or one of the executive producers. And the rating's really interesting. I mean, you guys know the premise.
It's kind of like it starts out as like space, more or less straight history of space flight, and then it kind of goes into alternate history.
It's alternate history show.
The Soviet Union lands on the moon 3 weeks before Neil Armstrong. And then there's this whole tape of Nixon saying, this is ridiculous, we can't do this. So he doubles NASA's budget. So there's all this stuff that happens that never really happened.
And in season 2, we actually get to 1983, and it's a very different 1983, but still probably the same. Because again, this is not a spoiler, but in the first episode of season 2, we get this scene of one of the guys at NASA basically parking his car near NASA, and we see this electric charger there. And so the main hero basically comes up to him and says, "What's that? Is it what?" And the guy says, "It's electric. You can charge it up, and then you get 60 miles out of it." And he's like, "What's the maximum speed?" "It's 95 miles per hour." He says, this is still a toy. No, it's not a toy. The speed limit is 55. For somebody, it's 55. So yeah, they insert this tiny moment with an electric car there in 1983 because
so it's
the
kind of like
history is different.
If the right stuff had a Kelvin timeline.
Yes, that's perfect.
I like that analogy.
It's like if the space program had the Kelvin timeline. Everything's there, but it's bigger.
All of the ships would be inexplicably huge.
Yeah.
A lot more lens flares on the Columbia.
And they still have their space shuttles, but like by the beginning of season 2, again, probably not a spoiler, doesn't have to do anything with the story. But by the beginning of season 2, they have 15 of them.
All the astronauts would be.
Picturing the ISS has this like giant cavernous space. Where
Star Trek is an
alternate. They are still at 1983. I don't know what happens when they get to our time.
They
probably are getting there.
All the astronauts would be young and hot and DTF. You know, the Kelvin timeline. You know what I'm saying? That's the Kelvin timeline. Star Trek, but everybody's young and hot and DTF.
Well, that's something I actually wanted to bring. I wanted to bring up because you're going to have the next week. You're having the discussion on the Ensign's log.
Indeed.
And I'm having now knowing that you are going to reintroduce in some way. You know, this is the hill I'm going to die on, Steve.
Oh, what is it? What? Tell me the hill, my friend.
The reintroduction of Baby Azarmas.
Yes, indeed.
I know this is coming up, and I expect
we have thought about
20 minutes on this topic, my friend.
Oh, we have thought about this. We know we actually that is probably Jason has had that in mind almost the time that we realized that Baby was going to be a character that stuck around. So we have known that we were building to that particular point longer. I mean, most of the stuff in the show, even the stuff that becomes like, you know, long running plot lines that span multiple episodes, we're just making that up as we go along. And we're just, you know, and it's like, oh, that's good. Let's go with that, you know, and
just like a writer.
Yeah. And
so you're just role playing.
Yes, exactly.
You sound bitter. You sound like there's something you want to say.
Guys, sorry for breaking the conversation, but I wanted to get there since the beginning and we never got there.
Oh yeah. You wanted to say something about
5 minutes left. I wanted to say something about Batman and your talking points about Batman, because you had several talking points about this, and probably the first talking point I actually want to address here is what was that? It wasn't is Batman police, it was is Batman pro status quo. I remember that comment. I remember you talking about like about superheroes who want to keep the status quo. And actually what I want to say to you is that Batman is among the popular superheroes at least. Is probably the least pro status quo hero and the most anti-status quo hero. And let me explain why. I mean, it's Gotham, and Gotham is bad. And what Batman wants to do with that, he wants to change it. Like other superheroes want to keep their generally okay cities generally okay, and Batman, this idea that we get throughout all the Batman, I don't know, at least Batman stories I know, is that it starts out like Batman is a necessity, and like you need Batman because if Batman's not here, it all basically goes like straight down probably into the earth. And if Batman's not here, then it all fails. And Batman actually wants to change something because the way it is, it's really bad. And so how I always have seen this like person, the Batman personality, is like it's necessary. We need it, but even at least in the beginning, even Bruce Wayne himself would rather not do it. He would rather just stay safe and be himself, but he has to, because otherwise it's all very grim. It's all a failed city. It's like basically Batman is the only thing that's keeping Gotham from becoming destroyed.
Yeah,
like that thing, you know.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, I think it's worse than Detroit in most modern depictions, but yeah.
Yeah. And the second thing about like the police, about those whole things, I still feel like Batman is in some ways he gets called. Is still like a middle finger to Gotham police, because what is he called? The world's greatest detective, and it's not you guys. It's this guy. And
It's not you guys.
Costume, and he's not even deputized. He doesn't even work for you, and he's the world's greatest detective, not you guys. None of you is.
This is the thing that kind of troubles me about superheroes. Is I see all these articles going like, "Oh, our superhero is fascist," and these are exceptional circumstances. Even with a character like Batman who has no powers, you can't exactly apply them to like the same standards of our world, because they are dealing with larger-than-life threats that you never see in our world, and we can't know how we would react to that. Like, this is why I don't like so much characters like the X-Men being used as an allegory for bigotry, for racism or homophobia, or etc. Because it's not reasonable to be afraid of gay people, of people of color, anything of the sort. That's why we call them phobias, because they're irrational, unfounded fears to have. But it is entirely reasonable to be afraid that your mutant friend might accidentally blast your arm off or something, even if it's just a sleepwalking thing. Mutants actually are dangerous. And that's why I don't really like so much using them as an allegory for real bigotries that... Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. The analogies never match up one-to-one.
I understand. I wish you weren't...
It doesn't fit.
I just wish you weren't so racist against humans or against mutants, Nick. You're such an anti-mutant racist. I can't.
It's kind of
there are hundreds and hundreds of like D-list mutants that can do stuff like, I can change anything. I can change any smell into cinnamon rolls.
That's fine.
Where's my spot on the X-Men?
I can reheat your coffee.
Yeah.
What I'm saying
like
is,
level power.
Actually, there's this idea that basically any superpower, even the lowest superpower, if you're smart enough, can be used to conquer the world.
My point is, your gay neighbor can't hurt you by being gay. They can hurt you the same ways everyone else can, but it's not because they're gay. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and if your friend is like basically the strongest guy on earth, or like an MMA champion or UFC champion or whatever, basically a really, really strong fighter, and he has some anger management issues, is it okay to be afraid of this guy? Like, he can hurt you, and if he hurts you, he probably hurts you bad, and he has the strength which regular humans do not possess, and he's trained to use this strength to basically kick someone's ass. And are you afraid of this guy because of this?
Wait, are you talking to me?
No,
that was a good De Niro you got going there.
Imagine you have.
You talking to me?
You have a neighbor who is this and this, a fighter, a trained fighter, a very strong guy probably, and has some anger management.
No, I'm talking about it like a neighbor who can blast a hole through a wall or chop my arm off, that kind of thing. Real people can't do that, and that's why I don't think mutants really work as an allegory for bigotry, because it's just not remotely a comparable situation.
Yeah. Because I kind of agree with you. I mean, because when you have those scenes in the comics or like in the movies or the cartoon, when it's like, Senator Kelly saying like, the little girl who can phase through a wall and rob a bank. It's like, he kind of has a point.
Well, this is why I hate Ultimatum, where Magneto shifts the poles and floods New York, almost destroys the world, and then just a few days later, Scott Summers, he steps up in front of the I forget exactly which place it is, but there's a whole crowd of people who are really mad at mutants now, and he goes up there to basically say, "No, not all mutants are bad guys. It was just this one, okay? One mutant almost destroyed the world." I'm like, oh, that's so much better. That's all it takes, apparently.
And how many times did you have a chance to murder him and prevent him from killing? You decided not to.
The trolley's problem.
Yeah, and the latest part of the Batman argument I didn't make yet is actually how anarchist people talk about the militia thing, and sometimes Batman as a character feels like this one-man militia, because what he does have, what other superheroes don't really have, is he has a bat signal. So basically anyone who really wants to can go there and call Batman. Is that right? You can call Batman if you want. if you need Batman, you can shine this projector on this guy.
Yeah, it's at the police station. The police station uses it. So it's
I feel like the roof of the police station is not just
not the best
property.
place, I know.
Those aren't public stairs.
Necessarily have to be overcast for that to work.
Yeah, but the idea is still there. I mean, Gotham is always overcast. Have you ever seen Gotham clear skies?
It's like London or Seattle.
Yeah.
Gotham.
All times
Gotham
I've been
is
in
just
London, it was clear.
Yeah.
Gotham is just magically tied to the people who lead it the same way Pride Lands is.
Does Gotham have a smog problem?
Exactly.
Maybe the biggest billionaire in the city that is runs a lot of the factories and it has the billions of dollars to improve the infrastructure and the material conditions in Gotham could do something about that, but now he decides to dress up as a bat.
He has to build his sweet car.
No, you need the
the nuclear car gets me so mad.
The nuclear car. That with the afterburner where it's shooting flames out the back of it. That doesn't seem safe.
No.
That doesn't seem safe.
A nuclear reactor needs to have 7 grown adults to look after it at all times.
But they have Alfred. Alfred dusts the Batcave and he checks the nuclear reactor.
Nuclear reactor in an IoT.
I mean,
oh my god.
Nuclear thermal fission jets exist, and there were experiments with airplanes, using a nuclear reactor to basically heat up some air and then throw it out of the back. But it's just too heavy.
Yeah. You know what? You know what Alfred says? He says, "I'm not 7 grown adults, sir. I'm a butler."
So anyway,
we're going. I'm going to end the show now.
So I will just finish off with some plugs. As Dana Cole has her own channel. If it's not the link into the description, I will put it into the live chat right now as I visit talking. I just watched Dana Cole's latest video that she put up yesterday.
So good.
About COVID-19 and Santa Rosa testing, and I did leave a comment as she knows about that because she gave it a heart. So Nick Anderson has his own his comment of comic Nick on the Planet Ripple. No, Planet Ripple, and you go and check out Nick Anderson's comic right there at planetripple.com. You can also get a preview of you can actually see all of the first volume for free and get a preview of it if you like it. But Nick Anderson also has his YouTube channel. Oh wait, that's Social Justice Alchemy I just plugged there. But
you're crossing the streams.
I know, I'm a terrible producer, but there's a link to Nick Anderson's YouTube channel of Nick on the Planet Ripple, so go and check that out. Now I will mention Social Justice Alchemy because later today is a special Social Justice Alchemy because we're celebrating Litros Arnold's birthday. She is now 42. Yay. Yes, that nerdy number. So
42.
I knew you weren't gonna like it, so come and join us and share it. I have a Twitch channel. I'll go ahead and plug that so that people can watch me if they want to. And I have a YouTube channel with my political streams that I do on Twitch get re-uploaded on there. But most importantly, also charity links page to help all those people out who are being crushed by capitalism because capitalism needs poverty in order to function. But to help alleviate that until we have fully dismantled capitalism, charity link page for people's GoFundMe's, PayPal's, and Cash Apps and the videos and all that stuff. And now I'm done.
Isaiah, you said you have one more thing. Go.
Yes, I just actually yesterday got my electronics from my tricorder.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
Ooh.
Isaiah, please, can you keep speaking while you show it? Because I don't have the way to look at all of the people. I only see one talk.
So
yeah, now I see.
This is
it's
very bright.
Very nice. Yeah,
that's
cool.
That's how you know it's Star Trek. You got the little blinky lights. If it doesn't have little blinky lights, it's not canon.
These lights
They don't have to mean anything, though.
No, they can't mean anything. They shouldn't mean anything.
Right now, the memory was so overexposed, it was almost lens flares, so we know it's Kelvin timeline.
Exactly. Prime timeline is little blinky lights. Kelvin timeline is little blinky lights causing lens flares.
These lights are breaking out of sequence, so get to the blink in sequence.
All right.
I was just saying because now I can go like to a cave and scan these stalagmites now.
It sounds like a great way to spend a weekend to me personally. Anyway, I am going to end the show now. The show will be over. So thank you all so much for hush, ending the show. Shush. Show over. Listen to me now. See, Lauren's not here. I hissed a little more. He would have liked that. Anyway, thanks to everybody for joining me. Thanks to everybody for watching. Thanks to all of you for being here, and I mean for being patrons and just for hanging out and making it a great show, as it always is. So we'll be back next month to do this again. And until then, take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here, and see you.
Patreon.com/Steve Shives.
that too. Bye, everybody.